Possibly the best known name in the world of Game Boy turn-based strategy games is Nintendo's own Game Boy Wars. Sadly, it's also one of the most inconvenient to play, where all three of its sequels, Game Boy Wars Turbo and Game Boy Wars 2 and 3, have all had the translation treatment. At time of writing, this one still hasn't. It's weird that Nintendo of America would greenlight the release of Nobunaga's Ambition, a game with little relevance to the Western world, but not Game Boy Wars. Perhaps it was because of the limited relevance. Perhaps this one hit a little too close to home in the war-ravaged world of 1991. This is a sequel to Famicom Wars, but really the series didn't gain a massive amount of traction until its descendant Advance Wars on the GBA. It's a turn-based military strategy game where you command either the army of the star or the moon, with whatever real-life connotations you want to make yourself, in an attempt to take over the scenario by capturing buildings and killing enemy troops. This was far from the earliest example of a military strategy game, but it was arguably one of the first to make it a big deal, in Japan anyway. This is probably due to its simplicity. There's no in-depth, brain-racking tactics needed to employ. You can be pretty gung-ho and still do alright. It's a more accessible game than some of the others around at the time. You don't have all of these intricate little pieces with their own skills and strengths. All you have to contend with are tanks, soldiers, anti-aircrafts, and so on. It's immediately obvious just by looking at the icons what the strengths and weaknesses will be. One thing you might notice straight away is that the grid here is not square. The tiles are square, sure, but the layers are offset, meaning you're actually playing on a hexagonal grid. This opens up many more movement options. It makes it so much easier to place yourself adjacent to an enemy you want to attack, as you're not punished for moving on the diagonal. Think how it's done in Civilization, and you'll see what I mean. The options are plentiful. You can choose whether each team is controlled by a player or a CPU, meaning you can have a link cable-free two-player experience, go one-on-one with the AI, or even watch a battle play out without any control. The maps vary depending on if you play one or two player, but either way there are a lot to choose from. You can choose whether to supply your troops manually or automatically. Automatic is more accessible, but choosing manual allows more in-depth tactical play. Pressing A over your base allows you to build a unit, depending on your current resource level. Otherwise, click on a unit and move it within its range. You need to capture resources to earn money, which allow you to build the units, amongst other things. Typically, this will be the buildings you see. The grey ones are currently not aligned to a side and are ready to be captured. Capture as many buildings as you can before the enemy. Money is very important, so make sure you claim it. The game is reasonably forgiving. You can save at any time with the inbuilt battery. You'll need to as well, because these battles can drag something fierce at times. If the map is a large one, don't expect to be thrown straight into a gunfight. Both armies are going to have to slog their way to each other over many turns. Game Boy Wars isn't really my go-to when choosing a turn-based strategy game, and there are a few reasons. Sure, the Japanese is a little bit of a problem, although the most basic hiragana knowledge should be enough to at least tell you what the units are. It's an accessible game, but for anyone with moderate strategy game experience, you might find the whole thing just a little too restrictive. The pace of the game struggles at times as well. Having said all that, Game Boy Wars is actually pretty good, and it started a franchise that turned out to be a big deal, especially on portable consoles. I think the main reason for me is I prefer the separation that a fantasy world-based game gives you. I'd much rather command an army of goblins into battle than an army of actual people. Maybe I'm too sensitive, who knows. Thanks so much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on the game down below, and if you can spare a second, give the review a quick thumbs up, it really helps out. Subscribe to the Portable Power Podcast for a new Game Boy review every day from Monday to Friday. Or alternately, new episodes of the podcast drop every Saturday and Sunday on whichever platform you get your pods. See you later on.